My name is Stella Harper. I'm 29 years old, and according to the state of California, I died last year. I wasn't in a car accident. I didn't go missing. My own parents filed a presumptive death certificate behind my back. Why? So they could take the 35 million inheritance my grandfather left for me. I thought the worst part would be watching my father light the check on fire. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing they never intended for me to survive on paper or in real life. But here's what they didn't count on. My grandfather saw this coming, and he left me more than a fortune. He left me a plan, a war map. And now, they're the ones who should be afraid. The room smelled like wealth-polished mahogany, old books, and quiet contempt. I sat across a desk so large it could have doubled as a runway, my palms flat against my thighs to keep them from trembling. My father, Henry Harper, sat to my right. Tailored black suit, platinum cufflinks, jaw tight with impatience. My mother, Celeste, to his side, one hand resting gently over her pearls, a signal that she was about to feign shock. And then there was Gregory, my older brother. The favorite, the heir they had groomed since birth. He didn't even glance at me as he adjusted the lapel of his jacket, like this was just another board meeting. The lawyer, Mr. Alder, cleared his throat. He looked ancient, like the building itself, but when he spoke, his voice had the edge of someone who had seen too much and forgotten nothing. The remainder of the estate, he read, valued at approximately $35 million, is left in its entirety to my granddaughter, Stella Harper. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then, "What?" Gregory spat, his voice cracking like glass. "That's a mistake." She manipulated him. He was sick. My mother gasped, like she was on a soap opera, her hand clutching her chest. "This must be corrected. You people know she's unstable." My father didn't speak. Not at first. He reached forward instead, calm and deliberate, and plucked the cashier's check from the folder Alder had placed before me. He turned it slowly in his hand. "Wu, Ling, Ling." Then he looked at me, and I saw it. Hatred. Raw, unfiltered hatred. "You betrayed this family," he growled. And from his coat pocket, he pulled out a lighter. He flicked it. Orange flame. He pressed the corner of the check into the fire. I didn't move. I just watched. The flame caught fast. It licked the edge, then roared, devouring ink and paper and all the illusions I might have still clung to. My mother shrieked, triumphant. "You get nothing." Ash drifted toward me like snow. They were waiting for me to scream, to cry, to plead. But I didn't. I looked at my father, truly looked, and felt nothing. No fear. Only silence. "My grandfather knew this would happen," I said quietly. Then I stood up. I picked up the worn leather briefcase Alder had placed beside my chair, the one Grandpa Raymond had made me promise to protect, and I walked out of the room without looking back. They thought they had won. They didn't know the game had just started. After I walked out of that office, I didn't go home. Because I hadn't had a real home in years. Not since I learned that, in the Harper family, love came with conditions. And I had failed them all. I was 15 when I built my first architectural model, a sleek, modern library, with sustainable features and local stone facades. I spent 3 months on it. It was ugly in some places, brilliant in others, but it was mine. I carried it into the living room one December evening, my cheeks flushed with hope. "Dad, look what I made." He didn't even glance up from his phone. "That's nice, Stella," he muttered, then turned to Gregory. "Did you fix the scratch on the Tesla, or do I need to call the dealership?" Mom offered her signature smile. Sweet, soft, poisonous. "Just set it on the side table, sweetheart. We don't want it cluttering the room." Later that night, I found the model near the recycling bin, its miniature skylights cracked. Gregory got grounded for scratching the car. And then he got it back the next day. I got forgotten. At Stanford, I poured myself into a business plan for a platform that connected local artisans with global markets. Handmade goods, small batch production, ethical sourcing. It was the kind of thing I believed could change lives. I printed copies of the pitch deck, formatted projections, even color-coded the damn index tabs. At dinner, I passed it to my father, hoping, just hoping for a sliver of recognition. He leafed through it once, then smirked. "Naive," he said, flicking the binder onto the marble table. "The world doesn't run on charity, Stella. It runs on leverage." Then he turned to Gregory. "Tell her about the Marlowe acquisition." 6 months later, my father launched a new venture. Its name was different. The website was sleeker. But it was my model, my research down to the pricing tiers. Gregory was announced as the CEO. I confronted my mother. She gave me that same practiced expression, concerned, yet placating. "You should be proud. Your ideas are good enough for the family to use. We're all on the same team, honey." But I wasn't on the team. I wasn't even a player. I was a utility, a pipeline, a ghost in the family brand. So I did the only thing I could. I left. I moved to Boston, found a tiny studio apartment with creaky floorboards and no central air, got a job at a nonprofit. Cut off contact, one slow silence at a time. No more texts, no more dinners, no more pretending. It was lonely. But it was mine. And for the first time, I could breathe. The hospice smelled like lemon cleaner and loss. I hadn't seen Grandpa Raymond in months. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't face him. Not after vanishing from the family like smoke. But something told me it was time. When I stepped into that white-walled room, he looked impossibly small. The man who used to carry lumber on his shoulder and split firewood with one hand was now buried under hospital sheets. But his eyes, they were still sharp, still fire. He saw me and smiled. "Stella," he rasped. "There you are." I swallowed the knot in my throat and sat beside him. His hand was trembling, paper-thin skin stretched over bone. "I thought you forgot about me," he said. "Never," I whispered. He looked toward the foot of his bed and motioned weakly. There, resting quietly on a chair, was a worn leather briefcase, the kind you'd find in an old legal drama. The brass clasps were tarnished, but polished with care. I hadn't seen it since I was 10. "Take it," he whispered. "Everything you need is in there." "Grandpa, what is this?" He gripped my wrist, harder than I expected. "When the storm comes, trust Alder. Only Alder. He knows the steps." His voice cracked on the word, storm. Behind us, I heard murmurs my parents whispering outside the door, probably discussing funeral outfits and PR language. But in that moment, they didn't exist. Only Grandpa did. And me. "You were always the one," he said. "Not Gregory. You saw people. You listened. You cared." My throat burned. He had always said things like that in quiet ways. Small gestures, subtle praise. But never this plainly. Not until now. "I don't know what to do without you," I whispered. "Yes, you do," he smiled faintly. "You just don't know you do." 2 days later, he died in his sleep. They held a memorial at a golf club. No tears, just catered shrimp and cold eulogies. Gregory gave a speech about legacy. I said nothing, because I knew Grandpa's real legacy wasn't in marble plaques or donation wings. It was in that briefcase. And whatever hell he saw coming, I was now walking straight into it. The downtown bank branch looked like a courthouse and a cathedral, had a baby-tall marble columns, gold chandeliers, and the suffocating air of judgment. I hated it immediately. Mr. Alder walked beside me, calm and unreadable as ever. The briefcase swung gently in his hand, like a sword sheathed in leather. We didn't wait in line. He had already arranged a private meeting with the branch manager, a man named Peterson, whose glass office overlooked the chaos below like a king watching peasants. Peterson stood up when we entered. His handshake was lukewarm and his eyes slid past me like I was a chair. "Mr. Alder," And you must be Stella Harper, I said. His expression flickered. A pause. A quick recalibration. I see. Please, sit. We did. Mr. Alder leaned forward. We'd like a full statement of Ms. Harper's accounts and assets. Peterson nodded, then hesitated. That may present a problem. I frowned. Why? It's my account. He turned his monitor toward me. And there it was. My name. My photo. My date of birth. And next to it in bold, unforgiving red font one single word. Deceased. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My lungs simply forgot how to work. This is wrong, I finally said. I'm afraid not, Peterson replied, suddenly cold and clipped. According to court documents, Miss Harper was declared legally deceased 6 months ago. I turned to Alder, but he was already pulling out a pen. On what grounds was this declaration made? He asked, voice sharp as ice. Peterson adjusted his tie. A petition was filed with the San Mateo County Court by Miss Harper's next of kin. She had reportedly been missing for over a year with no contact. A death certificate was issued based on legal presumption. Presumed dead. That's what they had done. They used my silence, my only act of self-preservation, as evidence that I no longer existed. They didn't forge anything. They didn't hack a system. They used the system. Twisted it around my absence like a noose. You will unfreeze the accounts immediately, Alder said. Peterson looked almost apologetic. I can't, sir. Without a court order overturning the certificate. Miss Harper, as far as the law is concerned, does not exist. I walked out in a daze. Outside, the streets buzzed like normal cars honking, people rushing, the smell of hot dog carts and summer smog. But I didn't feel real anymore. I was a ghost. A breathing, blinking, legally erased ghost. Back at the safe house, Alder poured black coffee and laid out files like weapons. This is their strategy, he said. They know it'll take months, maybe years to reverse the death certificate. You'll need lawyers, court hearings, money you can't access. He looked me dead in the eye. They're not just trying to take your inheritance. They're trying to bury your name, strip your existence, make you give up. And for a moment, I wanted to. The weight was crushing, the loneliness suffocating. But then I remembered Grandpa's voice on that video. We fight smarter. I sat up straighter. Then let's fight. Good, Alder said, because step 2 begins now. There was a woman who had been with my grandfather for 32 years. Maria Alvarez. She wasn't just the housekeeper. She was family even if my parents never admitted it. She knew everything. She saw everything. If anyone had witnessed the pressure they put on Grandpa before he died, it was her. And she was our only shot. But Maria had disappeared. After the funeral, she resigned quietly and moved out of state. No forwarding address, no social media, no paper trail. Mr. Alder called it, retired in fear. She knew too much, he said, which means they probably know she's a threat too. Finding her became our mission. Every night, we poured through records. Every contact Grandpa ever had. Phone logs, letters, old Christmas cards. After 4 days, we found a lead. She was living with her daughter in a small town in upstate New York. The plan was simple. Drive up there quietly, talk to her in person. Secure a sworn affidavit, just one voice confirming what they did. It could stop a judge from approving property sales. It could unravel the whole case they built. It could change everything. But the silence was getting to me. The isolation. I couldn't leave the safe house, couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't breathe without wondering if someone was watching. And in that loneliness, I made the worst mistake of my life. I called Chris. We met in college. He was the kind of guy who made everyone feel like the most important person in the room. We had shared dorm pizza, heartbreaks, job interviews, and bad tequila. He'd even held my hand the night my dog died. He was the one thread I had left to my old life. Stella? His voice cracked through the phone. Oh my God, I thought you were, everyone said, Jesus. I thought you were dead. I wanted to hang up. I really did. But I didn't. I needed someone to remember I existed. I'm safe, I said. But it's complicated. What's going on? Your parents are saying you had a breakdown, went off the grid. Is that true? No, I said. Listen, I can't explain everything, but I need to find someone. Maria, Grandpa's housekeeper. Remember her? Of course. Sweet lady. Why? She might be able to help me. That's all I can say. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing specific. No addresses, no plans. But I gave him just enough. 2 days later, as we were packing to drive to upstate New York, Alder's phone rang. He listened. His face went gray. They got to her. What? Who? Gregory. He showed up at Maria's door this morning. He didn't hurt her, but he threatened her daughter's visa, her job, everything. She's gone, Stella. She's terrified. She won't speak to anyone. The room spun. My knees hit the floor before I even realized I was falling. There was only one way they could have known where we were going. Chris. My best friend. My brother had bought him with debt relief, or worse. That night I lay on the floor of that tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling. Everything was slipping through my fingers. My family erased me. My best friend betrayed me. And I had just destroyed the only chance we had. For the first time in weeks, I didn't want to fight. I wanted to vanish this time for real. But morning always comes. And with it, so did Mr. Alder. He found me still on the floor, curled up in a blanket of failure. He didn't yell. He just said, "Your grandfather planned for this. You think he didn't know the kind of man Gregory is? Or the mistakes you might make?" He slid a document across the floor. Maria was the best option, but not the only one. It's time for step 3. The key was heavier than it looked. It had been buried at the bottom of Grandpa's leather briefcase, beneath folders and that old USB drive. Stamped with the name of a private vault company I'd never heard of. Denton Reserve Holdings. 2 towns over. No website, no logo, just discretion. When we arrived, the building looked like a dentist's office, beige stucco walls, small windows, discreet parking. The receptionist checked Alder's ID and mine. Then we were escorted into a cold chrome room with numbered steel doors lining the walls. "Box 107, Alder said. We both inserted our keys. Click. The drawer slid out with a hiss, long and heavy. Inside were no gold bars, no cash. Just proof. Original notarized will, leaving everything to me. Property deeds, untouched. Bank statements dating back 20 years, tracking every dirty deal my father had ever made. And at the very bottom, a sleek black hard drive in a sealed evidence pouch. Alder exhaled like he'd just found a nuclear warhead. This is the arsenal. Instead of going to court, Alder filed a motion for a mandatory settlement conference. It's a legal formality in some states, one last shot at resolution before full trial, but Grandpa had predicted it. Because it forced my family to show up. To face me. To think I was coming to surrender. They had no idea. The conference room wasn't a courtroom. It was smaller, quieter, just a long table, padded chairs, a neutral mediator, Judge Porter, retired but sharp-eyed. My parents sat across from me, flanked by their attorney, a smug man in an expensive suit, who looked like he billed by the eyebrow raise. Gregory sat to the left, scrolling his phone. They looked relaxed. Untouchable. "Let's begin," Judge Porter said. Their attorney spoke first, oily, confident. "This entire matter is a tragic misunderstanding," he began. "My clients believed Stella had experienced a mental health crisis and disappeared. Her brother and parents acted in good faith." He slid a forged will onto the table. "As you'll see, Mr. Harper made updates to his estate, leaving Stella a modest provision, and allocating the majority to Gregory, who was always more involved in the business." He looked at me like I was a stray dog at a dinner party. We are prepared to offer a one-time settlement of $250,000 in exchange for Stella renouncing all claims. My mother nodded, teary-eyed but composed. My father didn't look at me once. Gregory smirked. Then Alder stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't posture. He simply opened a folder. "Your Honor," he said, "this is a copy of a wire transfer, 50-0, from a shell corporation tied to Mr. Henry Harper, to Judge Nolan of the San Mateo County Court, the same judge who signed Stella Harper's presumptive death certificate." The air went still. Their lawyer blinked. "That's slander." "No," Alder said calmly. "That's bribery." He slid another document across the table. "And here is a sworn affidavit from Maria Alvarez. It outlines years of manipulation, emotional abuse, and coercion directed at Mr. Raymond Harper. She personally witnessed efforts to force him into rewriting his will." Gregory paled. My mother's hands trembled in her lap. And then came the final blow. Alder reached into his bag and pulled out a laptop. Connected the hard drive. "Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to share a video." "Objection," their lawyer shouted. "We were never given this in discovery." "This is not trial," Judge Porter said. "Sit down." The screen flickered to life. My grandfather appeared, sitting in his study. The date on the newspaper he held. 2 weeks before his death. "My name is Raymond Harper," he said. "And if you're seeing this, it means my family has tried to steal what I built." He looked directly at the camera. "To Stella, you were always the one I trusted. This plan is my way of making peace, of fighting back the only way I know how." He paused. "To the others, I forgive you, but I will not allow you to erase her." Then the video shifted grainy black and white security cam footage. Gregory and my father in the same room, towering over Grandpa. "Sign the goddamn papers, old man," my father growled. "Do it or we'll make sure you rot in state care, alone." Grandpa's trembling hand reached for the pen. He signed. The same forged will they had just presented. Silence. Not courtroom silence. Graveyard silence. Even the air conditioners seemed to shut up. Judge Porter finally spoke. This is no longer a family dispute." He stood and left the room. Moments later, the hallway filled with quiet men in suits. Federal agents. They arrested my father and Gregory on the spot. Wire fraud, conspiracy, bribery, elder coercion. No handcuffs, just soft voices and solemn eyes. I watched as my father's face, once carved from granite, cracked. And Gregory? He couldn't even meet my eyes. My mother wasn't arrested that day. But her world ended just the same. She sat alone, clutching her purse like it was a life vest. Everything frozen. Her assets, her reputation, her place in society. Gone. As I stepped into the sunlight outside, the air felt different. Lighter. I had walked in as a ghost. And walked out reborn. 3 days after the settlement conference, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in over a year. Mom. For the first time in my life, she was the one reaching out. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Please, just 5 minutes." We met at a small coffee shop in Brooklyn. Neutral territory, no memories, no ghosts. She was already seated when I arrived at a table by the window. Her hair wasn't styled like usual, the eyeliner was smudged, her fingers trembled as she stirred her coffee over and over. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, spiritually. "Stella," she said softly, "thank you for coming." I didn't say anything. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold it together. Then, "You have to help us." "Help you?" I repeated. "Your father and Gregory. They could go to prison. Real prison. Please, you have to talk to the prosecutors. Explain it was a misunderstanding." I let the silence stretch. "A misunderstanding," I echoed. "Yes. Your father was under pressure. He just wanted to protect the family legacy. He loves you, in his own way." I stirred my coffee. slowly. He had me declared legally dead, I said. You watched him burn my inheritance and said I deserved nothing. He made mistakes. He weaponized the court system. He thought you abandoned us. I did, I said evenly. Because I had to survive you. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand the same way she used to when I was 6 and afraid of the dark. I'm your mother, Stella. You can't do this to your own mother. And that's when I knew. This wasn't remorse. This was fear. She didn't come here to say sorry. She came because she had nothing left to hold on to. I slipped my hand from hers and reached into my bag. Pulled out a card. Slid it across the table. This is James Blake, I said. Defense attorney. Federal level. He's not cheap, but he's good. She stared at it, then looked up at me, confused. What is this? Help, I said. It's the only help I'm willing to give. You're really going to let them take everything from us? You already took everything from me. I stood up, took a last sip of coffee. But you're still my mother, and you're going to need a good lawyer. That's the last thing I can do for you. I walked out into the fall air. No victory speech. No revenge fantasy fulfilled. Just one clean line in the sand. One final severing. And the first real peace I had ever known. I didn't keep the empire. That sprawling corporate machine my grandfather had built, the deals, the buildings, the ruthless legacy, it wasn't mine. It had never been. I sold it off, piece by piece. The money went into a trust, mostly. I kept enough to live, to build, to breathe. But there was one part I couldn't let go of. A small tech division buried inside the company, one that my father had mocked, and Gregory had stolen the framework for. My idea. My original vision. I took it back. We rebuilt it from the ground up. A platform connecting local artisans and small creators to buyers around the world. We focused on transparency, storytelling, and sustainability. It didn't make explosive profits. But it made impact. And that felt right. The rest of the fortune went into a new foundation. The Raymond Harper Initiative. Its mission was simple and deeply personal. To provide legal aid and protection for victims of familial coercion, financial abuse, and elder exploitation. I hired lawyers, therapists, and investigators. We launched case after case. Every time we helped someone reclaim their stolen rights, it felt like I was rebuilding something not just for me, but for people like me. It wasn't revenge. It was repair. My father and Gregory took plea deals. The evidence was too overwhelming, too airtight. They served time. Their names made headlines. And then, like shadows at sunset, they disappeared from the public record, stripped of titles, status, money. I heard they now live in a rented condo in Tampa. Gregory delivers investment webinars on platforms no one watches. My father, once a giant in finance, now argues with HOA boards over parking rules. I don't hear from them. And I don't need to. One afternoon, while unpacking the last of Grandpa's documents, I found a hidden envelope wedged behind the lining of the vault's metal box. It was addressed to me in his shaky handwriting. Inside were two things. A copy of his medical records. A letter. My dearest Stella, if you're reading this, it means our plan worked. It means you are free. There's one last truth I must leave with you, the one I couldn't say while I was alive. He had known he was dying. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live when he wrote the first video. I watched your father diminish you. I watched your mother enable him. And I stayed silent. I told myself it was to keep the peace. But peace bought with your soul is no peace at all. This plan, this entire elaborate trap wasn't a test. It was my confession, my final act of love. I couldn't undo the past, Stella, but I could give you the tools to build something new. Be a better voice than me. Be a better fighter. Be a better woman. All my love. Grandpa. I cried. Not the kind of crying that aches. The kind that cleanses. And when I stood at his grave a week later, on a quiet green hill outside Albany, daisy in hand, I understood. The 35 million was never the point. It was just the spark. The real inheritance was this: that my name means something because I chose what it stands for, not them. That my silence was never weakness, it was gathering. That my voice finally was mine. I laid the flower on his stone and whispered, "Thank you." Then I turned, walked down the hill, and didn't look back. For the first time in my life, the future was mine to write.